So all I'm doing to build more harmonically complex chords is I'm taking familiar shapes that I play all the time and then finding where the additional extensions might be. In relation to my chord tones, I want extensions. So all the notes that are outside that chord but still inside the key. So what you could do, for example, in this position is, given that there's an A right there or a 9, what I'll do is I will sacrifice, in some cases, one note to get another. So in this case, I have an A on my G string. I'm going to remove the note that I already have on the B string, which in this case is the 3rd, to get that A. Basically, this is a perfectly colorful, really slick chord that we might use in an R&B context. Okay, if you wanted to get the 3rd back in there, you would actually have to like maybe bar across here. But what you'll find is that oftentimes when you start to go through this exercise, you start coming up with chord voicings you've never played before, just as a byproduct of the thought process or the experiment of having to find one way to accommodate a new note, as we did there, and then feeling that maybe something's lacking. Now you're asking yourself, how do I get a 3rd back in there without sacrificing the note we added? Maybe in the process of doing that, you end up barring all the way across to the high E string, and now you're going to put a 7 in on top. The point being, when we think about chord voicings and start looking at extensions, oftentimes people feel a little bit overburdened. It's been my experience teaching this stuff anyways, and it's my experience when I was a teacher. And the fact of the matter is, if you want to look at each one of those different chords and each one of those different extensions in each of the different possible permutations up and down the neck on all of the string sets, there's a lot of different ways to play these chords, and it's totally, it feels like an insurmountable challenge to learn that stuff. And I don't want any of my students or any of you guys to think about it in that manner. It can be simplified to basically just thinking of 5 common shapes. In these cases, I'm just thinking cage shapes. But whatever your chosen shapes are that you play all the time, just stick within those, orient yourself around the root, ask yourself, maybe even write down what are the color tones in relation to the chord in the key that I'm playing them. So G in this case, I'm thinking of A's for my 9s, right? C's for my 11s, so on and so forth, E's for my 13s. And just ask yourself, how do I play any one of those given notes in a shape that you play all the time? If we move it up to A shape, this one's probably super familiar to you guys. So again, I'm just playing a G major 7 in this case. If I ask myself where the 9 is, I'm going to be looking for an A. It's probably the most common voicing of that chord there. But all I'm doing again is I'm just asking myself, where is the A in this given part of the fretboard for a G major 7 chord, and I'm adding that note in. And you can do it in a variety of different ways. So I just took my pinky off, I've got one. There's no 3rd in that anymore though, because the note I gave up to get it was the 3rd. If you want to keep that 3rd, maybe you reorient yourself in this way. So this is a bit of like trial and error, going through this and trying to find different ways to find the voicings that you like. Obviously there are favorites. We have a nice compository of them. I mean, I certainly do. In terms of like each shape, I have got like my 3 or so favorites. But that's essentially the exercise in terms of developing your vocabulary for these kinds of chords.